So I was scrolling through YouTube Reels and I saw the Sweetwater ad pop up with John Mayer. And I always like to watch those. You know, John Mayer is very articulate, he's funny, plays amazing guitar. And he was selling the new Silver Sky SE and talking about how it feels so great in your hands. And then he just all of a sudden plays this incredible, very interesting riff. You know, it was like nothing I ever heard him play, or much things that I hear, you know, in Western music in general. So it sent me kind of down a rabbit hole of figuring out what it was. And then I was messing around with that, scaling that sound for a good couple weeks. So what that sound is what they call a Mixolydian flat six. So if you take the Mixolydian scale, which is a major scale with a flat 7, and then what you do for that scale is you take that 6 and you move it down. And it gives it almost a minor feel. So it's... And immediately that sounds a lot different than the regular Mixolydian. What that is really hidden is that 6. I feel like the 6 is as powerful as the 3rd. You know, if you go with a natural 3rd or a flat 3rd, it's going to change the song completely. Same thing with the 6. So, you know, with the natural 6, the major 6, it's going to sound a lot different than the minor 6. And then what that scale also gives you is these 2 close half steps. So you're going from the major 3rd to the 4th, and then from the 5th to the flat 6. Which is great for these little half bends, which is what John does a lot. Harmonically, I think you could just say it's, you know, A major to D minor, which is a pretty awesome sound. Because the D minor 3rd will get you the flat 6. So the other thing I learned learning this riff is just how amazing John Mayer's bends are. You know, when you look at them in detail, they're really incredible and very expressive. He's got so many different flavors of bends, so I'll try to go over that as well. So all these notes are in reference to the A major scale. So John starts on the 5th of A, which is, he starts on this E note up here. I found it easier just to start on the E here. But he plays this very staccato triad to start. So he just goes E, the 5th, and then he goes to the root. So it's just that A major triad there. And then immediately goes into that Mixolydian flat 6 flavor when he takes the 5th and he bends it to the flat 6. There it's a slow bend. And then this next part, it's the opposite. Instead of doing like this soaring slow bend, he's gonna hit a really quick bend with his middle finger. So it's... So that second part is after you come down, you hit the 4th, and then the root, then you bend the 3rd to the 4th. And I think that's amazing because one, it's so expressive with those 2 different bends. And then he's also really hammering on these big color notes of the scale. You know, this flat 6 to the 5th, and then the 4th to the major 3rd. You know, if you... Yeah, those are the notes. So he immediately hits those. It took me a while to get that last bend because it's so quick and he comes right off that pickup note. So then after that part, he slides up to the A triad up here on the 4th string and then immediately goes to that color note. But this time he goes to the 5th and holds it on there. And if you listen to him play it, his dynamics are incredible there. It's really, really something I just can't match. Because he picks up the dynamics compared to the previous riff. And then he finishes that riff up here with a slide to the fourth, and then he bends it to the third. So again, he's hitting those color notes there, all those ones there, those half steps that make that whole Mixolydian flat six sound. And then he kind of goes into blues land, and he bends, he's on this A shape here. He's gonna take that second and bend it to the minor third. And so he's really good at bending with his index finger, which is a common blues thing. I'm not very good at it. But yeah, he bends up. And then he hits F minor. And then he plays the same riff, but then he hits F, which is that flat six. And it's interesting to note that you can play the same riff, and if you just switch the chord behind it, how much that changed that whole part of that lick or song. It's like a mini song, I guess. So then he does a slide bend. He slides up to that second of A, bends to the minor third, then bends it back down, hits the second, root, and hammers onto the second. And then he quickly hits the root, and he bends that major six to the flat seven, and hits the E minor there. So that whole second part, and then you get into blues land with the chords. And then in his video, he does kind of just this quick kind of generic E minor walk up. And he ends on that E note, and then he goes back into that. That sound, that Mixolydian flat six sound. So the way I was learning this is, so what I did is I just put A major into D minor to loop pedal. And then in my head, I know Mixolydian so well, and I just had to find the spots where the fifth was and spend a little bit of time getting that sound and that visual under my fingers. And I did that, did that all the time. So I think it's a great riff by John Mayer. I love that Mixolydian flat six sound with that flat six in the major scale. I also found it very eye-opening when I was trying to learn it, and I realized how nuanced his bends are. He's really an expert at, phrasing and the little details of that. And you can see that with all the different types of bends he does and the dynamics. It's really worth checking out the video. I'll put it in the description.